So my name is Ford Myers, and I'm a career coach, author, and speaker. I'm also chair of Beacon's job search and career development subgroup, which is what we're all here for today. Joining us today also is my co-chair and partner in crime, Ken Scher. Say hello, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. So Ken has been very helpful and instrumental in bringing these programs to fruition, and we work together to try to bring you the best programs we can. We really have a great program today by an outstanding speaker, author, and expert. So pay attention to the next couple slides, because we're going to share with you some information about not only our speaker today, but also some background information about Beacon and also our upcoming program in the month of October. So with that, let me turn it back over to Ken. And Ken, you can please go through the remainder of our introductory slides.
Okay, thank you, Ford. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I know you're going to enjoy this presentation and get a lot out of it. Very quickly, I do want to talk to you about Beacon. If you are not a member, I would suggest you think about it. Beacon is a great networking group with very knowledgeable and helpful people. It's amazing. If anyone puts out an email asking for advice or guidance or support or connection, usually the next email is "Thank you, I have enough," because everybody jumps to help each other out. So, if networking is the key to successful business, because it's key to landing your next job, Beacon is a great place to do that. We have quite a diverse group of people. We're in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and elsewhere. We have all different levels of executives and business owners, and you could see the size of the companies as well. So whether you're the big or small or interested in big or small company, Beacon, you could find someone that can help you there. Privately owned, publicly owned, for-profit, not-for-profit, we got it all. These are the different industries represented. If you are looking to get into one of these industries as a job seeker, or maybe move from where you currently are, again, we have really pretty much every industry is covered here. So I'm sure there's somebody that can help you with that. All different types of positions. We typically, what is the cutoff level? I'm sorry, Zoe, in terms of membership? Director level, vice president, where are we at?
Yeah, senior director or vice president, someone who's in a senior level in their career.
Okay, thank you. So, we do have pretty high level people here that can definitely help you out. A lot of different companies are represented here. These are all potential networking connections that can help you with your career. If you're looking to get into any of these companies, Beacon is a great conduit to do that. So Ford and I, as Ford mentioned, co-chair the job search and career development group, subgroup, and we really are here for all job seekers. We every month we try to come out with a program on a different aspect or different approach to your job search. The people we bring in are very high quality, highly respected opinion leaders, as you'll see today. We have a great one. And inevitably, people talk about the impact that these programs have on them in their search and how it's changed them or motivated them or given them a direction that has helped them to be more successful. But we also don't have all the ideas. We want to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you, Beacon members, but even non-Beacon members. If you have ideas on topics or people who could speak that you think can help with job search or career development, we'd love to hear your suggestions, as well as, is there anything about the program that you think that you really like or that we could do better? You could sign up for our subgroup mailing list and be kept up to date on everything, as well as on the Beacon for Life website. You'll see all the subgroups there and committees, and you could just find ours towards the bottom. So next month, we have a program called Designing a Happy, Healthy, and Fulfilling Retirement. And really, one of the things as I get closer to that age of potential retirement, that I hear from a lot of people is you can't just retire and think, I'm going to go fishing all day, I'll play bridge all day, I'll golf all day. you can't do that. It really is not good for you, for your health. And it also is not a fulfilling part of life. And what Mike Drack is going to talk about is not the finances, but how do you prepare yourself for retiring so that when you do retire, it's seamless and you have another purpose in your life that keeps you going, keeps you motivated, and keeps you excited. And Mike is he's a speaker and an author. He's got 2 books out, and he also is a senior contributor to Booming Encore, which it's really made for baby boomers as we move towards retirement. So if you wanted to check that out, you can. And then the LinkedIn information for Mike is at the bottom. But today, we're very excited about the fact that Curtis Jenkins is joining us. Curtis is a speaker. He's an award-winning project management professional. What Curtis does is amazing to me. He takes what he does every day extremely well. He's extremely successful, and he's an executive at his company. And he's created project management approaches that are more efficient than what's been going on in the past. And he's taken that and marketing, and he's applied it to the job search and talked about how you can organize yourself. He'll talk about how you could use those that marketing approach to really get yourself out there in the way you want to get out. And I'm really excited that he's agreed to speak with us today. And with that, I'm going to turn the sharing over to Curtis. And here we go. And Curtis, regarding questions, do you want us, we'll monitor the chat and at the end go for questions?
So, I was thinking about that. Yes, I might ask for a question after a particular module or area, but just a question or 2, because I want to make sure I keep pace.
Okay. And if there's something that comes up that in the chat that seems particularly urgent, I'll jump in. Otherwise, we'll wait till the end.
Okay.
So thank you, Curtis. It's all
works.
you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for having me. Let me just adjust my screens now that I'm sharing. And, it's actually an honor. I mean, the words that I'm hearing about through the introductions, I've been, I would say, colleagues with you, Ken, for about a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford, I already said how your reputation precedes you. So I sort of have goosebumps because I feel like I'm around job search royalty, and you guys are the names that I mention when I'm talking to other people about who to engage with. So thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. So this is going to be about 5 parts here. And the first part is our introduction. We'll go through this. And, like Ken said, ask your questions in the chat, or I might call for some questions just to keep it interactive. The first thing I want to ask you is, which can of soup would you want to be? And you can add that in the chat. I like to use soup or cans of soup as sort of my models for how people behave around shopping, right? Consumer behavior. Which can of soup would you want to be? So the can on the left is, it has more volume, but it costs less. The can on the right has less volume, but it costs more. But let's talk about a few of the characteristics. When I went in the supermarket, the can on the left was at the bottom of the shelf, which is typical for consumers that want to spend less money. And the can on the right is at the top. It's at eye level, and they call that in the marketing eye level, buy level. And so you could say that there's soup for everyone, right? But for me, I want to be Amy's. And what's different about Amy's? Amy's right now, they don't have any commercials, at least none that I've seen, but you've seen plenty of Progresso commercials, right? So they're spending money on it. And maybe, when they're on, they're marketing to a different group. But I want to be Amy's, where I don't have to promote myself through a bunch of commercials, but I'm relevant. The word organic, right? And when we talk about resumes and things like that, having the right words, being relevant, that matters. So you can sell less soup and you can cost more. And that cost is the value that you present. Our hiring managers are consumers. They're buying you. And when I talk about today, the 4 P's of marketing, you'll understand why I'm saying that you're a product. So let's talk about some things that happen to us, right? Because things can happen to us and we can allow them to happen to us, and we're out of a job. And in 2001, what I didn't know was that the September 11th attacks was happening to me. I didn't even know it. I had just started with a new company in 2002. And I didn't know that that company was tied to Wall Street. And so that company, my job lasted for 6 weeks. Now, why that was really significant was because I had negotiated my way out of paying $40,000 in tuition to my current company. I was fortunate enough to go to University of Pennsylvania's Executive Masters in Technology Management program. And I graduated, but I didn't get the promotion that I thought I was going to get, or the promotion I was promised. And so I had to take matters into my own hands. My goal and dream was always to be a leader in a project management office. Here was this opportunity, but 6 weeks later, the rug was pulled up from under me. And so this has never happened to me before. I've never lost a job. And what happened was I learned that I didn't have a network. And so, well, fortunately, I was able to, and I'll tell you how the network helped me. But at the time, I didn't have a particular person to tell or to call. I had a bunch of shame. My sons were worried about what their future would be like, because nobody's, I was a giant to them. Nobody has ever seen me out of work. And so this was the event that made me make sure that no matter what the event, I'm going to always be prepared. And so then we could fast forward to the 2008 financial crisis. Now that was devastating to 401ks and even mine. But the good news is that I had already started the practices to make myself sort of bulletproof, if you will. And bulletproof is not that I'm always having a job. It's the confidence that I can get one, and or some of the things that I developed on my own so that I can make sure that I'm employed. And then fast forward to the pandemic. And I know that devastated a lot of people. But in some cases, it was good. I mean, for me, because of the business that I'm in, it actually helped me even further. Again, you have to put things in place to make sure that your brand is ready for any of these events that you cannot control. And speaking of events that you can't control, when I do these talks, there are a number of things that come up. And there are some trends that either help us or they get in our way. So I'm just going right into it right now with ageism. That happens. And I could tell you, I don't recall being a victim of ageism. What I do recall is that I used to be the youngest person in the room, and now I'm often the oldest person in the room. And what I've learned to do was put myself in a position where I'm seen as wise. My word economy, the way that I see things, the way that I view things, I try to make it so that it's attractive to the other people in the room, so they don't see me as the old guy in the room anymore. What I also learned, I learned this before I had the gray, is that older people calm the room. And when I learned that, I embraced being older because I knew that I could actually impact the room just with my demeanor. Now, some of the things that I would suggest is learn technology, right? Because if you're going to be behind the times with technology, the younger people, at least my kids, they're not as forgiving. Don't speak old. Saying old sayings or things like that put yourself out there. I mean, you can belong, you can be the oldest person in the room. I think of a person like Les Garnick, and maybe some of you guys know this gentleman. He is, to me, one of the best presenters on job search, interview skills, and he just his delivery. I just want a part of him every time I talk to him. So use it to your advantage. Don't let it get in your way. The other thing that's a high trend right now is diversity and inclusion. Some people can look at it like diversity and exclusion. Lean into it, understand it, don't fight it, talk about what it is and then where you fit in. So when we talk about diversity, many times people will have a lens of people of color. Well, there's so many levels to diversity and inclusion, like diversity of thought. There's so many ways that you can lean into it, and I would embrace it versus feeling excluded, because at my job right now, our goal is to elevate women into leadership. I could easily feel excluded. I'm not. Everything that I do every day is how I'm going to help reach that goal, because as I'm helping others, I am helping myself. We do have some good news. It's a seller's market. I don't know if you've felt this, but I've never seen the great resignation. People are now, after the pandemic, saying, look, if you don't allow me to work from home, if these are the things I want, right? Before it was the buyers, the consumers that would dictate what's happening. But right now, if you've gone out to a restaurant, you've experienced some lack of service. I'm now tolerant of that because I understand. But before my first experience, I was like, what is going on with this operation that I can't get my soup on time? So there are things that are happening that can work to your advantage, and you have an opportunity to dictate more of what you want, because the jobs are in high demand. There's a lot of supply out there. And so if you are having trouble getting it, find out what the gap is, because people are hiring. The last thing I want to tell you around this part is don't get discouraged. We're talking about hiring managers, HR departments, companies that are made up of people. They are humans, and humans make decisions based on status. How do you make them look? One of the things that I teach when I'm talking to people, and I'm doing one of my whiteboard sessions, is when we go to an interview, just imagine there's an imaginary line. We go to an interview and we take that person and we put them above that line, and we automatically put ourselves below that line. Don't do that. You put yourself at the same level. Now, hiring you should give them status. They should feel like they're higher if they're going to hire you, but don't automatically self-deprecate, okay? Because most decisions are not made with logic. We need social proof, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the program. They're made by somebody who never met you, so how will they know you? And sometimes it's a committee. And to me, when you're dealing with a committee, there could be politics, and it's typically the person who makes the most noise or has the most power that dictates the decision. So that decision not to hire you is not always your fault. And I want you to understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Curtis Jenkins. Ken Scher introduced me. He already said some of the things that you'll know that's obvious. I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, and an award-winning project manager. But the thing I need you to know is that I'm a perpetual job seeker. I look for jobs every day. I'm looking for a job right now. Somebody's going to see this. I might be in a situation where I need some help. So now I have content that maybe is relevant to them wanting to hire me. Here's an opportunity, and I take advantage of all those opportunities to make sure that every day I'm in a situation of not what I know, but who knows me. And my goal is to change my world one person at a time through meaningful and impactful engagements, creating a positive experience at every encounter. And I'm hoping today that you have a positive experience. So now let's talk about the 4 P's of marketing. So the 4 P's of marketing, the marketing mix, and I'm just going to put them all up here. I'm not going to walk you through this. I'll just put it here first. All right. So this was developed by marketing scholars, Neil Borden and E. Jerome McCarthy. And it's designed to compartmentalize a product's unique selling points that differentiate it from its competitors. When we're looking for jobs, we have competitors. Other people are looking. What's unique about us? And so this is where I started to understand for myself that if I take this approach, understanding that I'm a product and a hiring manager is a consumer, then this is the way that I'm always going to be in sales and marketing for my next opportunity. So definitions, the product refers to the goods and services you offer to your customers. Price refers to how much you charge for your product or service. Position refers to the distribution channels used to get your product to your customers. And promotion refers to the advertising and selling part of marketing. The way I like to do this is align this with how we see ourselves as a product, your image, your brand, your reputation, your resume, interviewing. And when you look at this walk that we're doing, product and price is more about you, but you're moving more to position and promotion, which is more about how others help you. So price is knowing your value. Position is getting yourself in the right position. Remember I talked about buy level, eye level, buy level. But this is where you start to leverage sponsors and mentors so that they can promote you. And just like we talked about earlier, networking for life, Beacon, you got to network, but you also have to do some self-promotion. Let's talk more about products. So elements, a product needs to be relevant. What problems are solved when you're hired? Not the problems of yesterday. What are the problems of the day? Can you solve them? A product needs to be communicated. So what is about you that is unique, that cannot be duplicated or replicated? Now, of course, nobody's that special, right? But listen, there's a whole bunch of companies and a whole lot of jobs. You can be unique and you can appear unique to your buyer. A product needs a name. And so what is your image, your brand, your resume say about you? What does your social media say about you? Protect your name at all costs. And then a product should be adaptable. What got you there yesterday may not apply today. And you have to keep reinventing yourself. When I talk later about my project management approach, I'm going to show you goals then and goals now, goals recent, and then I'll talk about more like goals now. Okay, so let's put these in, talk more. Understanding that you have to sell yourself. People think sales is a bad name. Sales is everything. You're always selling. So companies are searching for candidates that satisfy their business needs. So you have to know what your value proposition is. What are your 3 great features and benefits? To give you an example, what I'd like to tell people is my #1 feature is mergers and acquisition integrations on time and under budget. I've been doing them for over 20 years. It's a big deal. That's why I work for private equity firms, because I'm able to stand right behind that. And I build on that resume. The second thing is cost optimization. I once asked my boss, could I lead the department's budget? And oh boy, the first year I did this, I did a financial calculation that took $1 million out of the budget that wouldn't allow me to add it back. And I had to manage that budget the entire year. So I started off crying in the beginning of the year, but I was laughing at the end of the year because I learned the ins and outs and the things to do in order to make myself successful. And so it ends up being a great story. The third thing that I do well is I build PMOs. And I've been building PMOs. It's always been my goal to build a PMO. And when I got laid off, that was the first opportunity, 6 weeks, opportunity gone, went back into project management and had to work my way back up to building PMOs. So now I'm actually pretty known for it. So those are 3 things. What are your 3 things? I want you to think about it, put it in the chat. Customer research is key. You know this. You got to understand where you're trying to go. You got to know the company. You got to know the people. I've done some things like stand outside. You know, it used to be a time where smokers stood outside of a company. Now you don't see too much of that anymore, but you'll find people at networking events. I do what I can to find out about a company that I'm looking to go to. Marriott, for example, was a company that I wanted to go to because I like traveling. I wanted travel to be I wanted them to pay for the travel while I helped them build the company. What I learned since is that at the level that I'm at, most people are hired from within the industry, but it didn't stop me from trying. So how does your value proposition bring value to your customers? It's something you have to ask yourself. And the things you have to do, qualify, just like sales, qualify that prospective employer by setting a goal. What company you want to work at? What are their attributes? What's the position and title? And what's the total compensation? And when you talk about position and title, if you are short of the job descriptions that you'll look for, figure out how you're going to close that gap. And that's one of the actions that I take all the time. If I don't have a skill, I come up with a plan on how I'm going to close that gap. But for your brand as a product, focus on developing your resume. There was a time when I used to help people with their resumes. Now I don't have the time to help people with their resumes. I'll say, hey, Ken, do you know somebody? Lynn Williams from Philadelphia Great Career Group, or Bang, I think is what it's called now. I asked her to help. Your reputation, and you can't ask anybody to help you with your reputation. You have to build it, and they have, they help you by you creating a persona that's known to deliver. Your demeanor. When I hire, I look for cultural fit. One of my number one questions is, how kind are you on a scale from 1 to 10? Right? I want to know what your values are. Do you have a high degree of integrity, accountability, respect, things like that? And are you an inspiring leader or a future inspiring leader? Your relationships and referrals. Remember I talked about it's not what you know, who you know, but it's who knows you. Who can get you there? I'm often writing down where I want to go and names of who can help me get there. And it's not just about jobs. Anything I want, I'm always thinking about who can help me. And then your image. Be careful of who you associate with and what you put on your social media, because people are watching. And in this day and age, you're being watched with everything you do. I can't tell this advice enough. Practice communications and telling a good story. An interview is nothing but a collection of stories, and the ability to convey your messaging is going to be key. Ken, I'll take a question on product if anybody has one.
If anybody does have a question, there's nothing in the chat, Curtis, but if anybody wants to put something up there, and while we just give a minute for that, Curtis, I will say, first of all, you already made some great points. One of the ones I want to emphasize, especially for that around ageism, and you talked a lot about upping your skills and making sure, whether it's technology or other areas, but ageism is not about your age, it's about what you can't do. And if you can't do technology and you can't do those things, that's why you're not getting the job, not because you're 50 or 60. In most cases, there is some ageism out there, but Curtis, your direction and ideas are great. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken.
Any questions? All right, Curtis, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. So while I was asking for questions, I kind of put here a product testimonial from a young lady that was out of a job for a couple of years, couldn't get an interview to showcase value. I did something that was really different. I took her resume and put a sort of an orange hue around it. People always have these rules. I like to break the rules because they're different. And the hiring manager said to her, hey, I pulled your resume because I wanted to see what this orange resume looked like. And so she got the job, and her testimonial here is that, she was She was helped to understand that she's a product, but that was just doing something different. And throughout this talk, you'll hear me say, I will do some different things. Because you got to be different than your competition. All right, now I just need this to advance. All right, let's talk about price, knowing your value. So price is basically the salary and compensation that you're looking for, right? And the most relevant technique is the going rate and competitive pricing, right? It can be tricky to determine your price. You say, I am worth this, and a company says I'm worth that. A company has a budget, and that's what they're working from. They've already worked with HR. Their goal is to manage those budgets. You heard me talk about me managing a budget. Now, one thing I will not do, and I had a conversation with my boss and a peer. My peer wanted to hire a young lady, and because he was being a good corporate citizen, he wanted to hire at the lower end of the spectrum of the budget. And sitting around the table, we said, this young lady's skill set requires mid to upper level of this budget. And because we're going to lose her if we don't compensate her correctly. I don't think every manager behaves that way. And I just want you to know that. So you have to be able to defend yourself. Here, she was fortunate that when you think in the future, somebody leaving costs you more money, you want to do what you can right now to make sure you got the right talent and they're happy, because the happy talent is going to perform better. So it's not easy to determine your price. And sometimes it's frightening. You may even get your first offer and just say yes, because what's your goal? To get a job. So this is an emotional area, but what I would do is I would learn some techniques, right? And so there's a book that I like. It's called what is it? Peter Voss, Never Split the Difference. And I read books like that just so that I can stay up on how to communicate what I want to come out with a win-win versus somebody feeling like win-lose. Because typically in a job search, the loser is going to be the employee. So 2 things I need you to do. Look at research value. This is not new to you. You've probably heard this before. Find out what the market is paying through various areas, salary.com, payscale.com, glassdoor.com. There's probably so many other .coms you can look at. I've even heard people say, have conversations about your salary because it helps other people. Now, I guess this is where I might be old school, because I just never did that. Sometimes you're not sure if you're bragging or complaining when you're talking to somebody about salary. Drive the conversation. So once you have research value, you want to drive the conversation, that's your baseline, to your individual value. Remember earlier I talked about 3 things that I do well? Well, they bring value to an organization, quantifiable value to an organization. So I don't want you to give me the salary that I've researched that's in the midpoint, unless I'm just starting in a new position. If I go into a place as a project manager or as a project management executive, I believe that I've created enough value based on the body of work that I can start looking at more of the 75% and higher range. But I have the confidence to do that because of all the things I've done from a product perspective and some of the things that I've done from an individual value perspective. If you're a consultant, there are a variety of techniques. One of the things I like to say when I was doing consulting is, I appreciate your hourly value, but let's talk about what the project is, what it costs. And if I can bring this in under budget, can I get a kicker? Can I get a bonus? Right? So, there are a number of things you can do as a consultant to figure it out. You hire contractors to do work in your house, and sometimes they will negotiate with you that way. If they do it on time, or whatever they can do. But one thing they can do that you can't do is change orders, right? If somebody changes the job on a contractor, they can say, hey, here's your change order. But when you got a job description, you're working for somebody as a consultant, you can't say, that's a change order. Now, that just gave me an idea. I might think about that. So one of the things I want you to think about when you're talking about your price is total compensation, because remember, we talked about budgets. Look at areas where you can maybe get some additional vacation, the work from home. I like the fact that my cell phone is paid for, and that unlimited data, that does me very, very well, especially, and being international. So when I'm traveling and I'm not at work, I'm still covered. But that was something, and you'll see later, it was really a big deal to me to have my cell phone paid for and to have work flexibility. And avoid as much as possible the discussions on salary until an offer is made. You're going to be asked, how much do you make now? What are you expecting? And I know it's hard. Do your best to try to avoid that. I don't have a magic pill, right? Because again, it's an emotional topic and the person that's talking to you has power. If you believe you have the power and you believe that from an individual perspective that you are the product, then you might be able to have the courage to not answer that question and drive the conversation more to what the offer looks like first. Another testimonial that I helped a friend with. This is his first time he was working. He found a job that he had to commute to New York, and he's never had a six-figure salary. And I told him, if you're going to New York, you got to make New York salary, not Pennsylvania salary. And he would have been okay with the Pennsylvania salary because it was still more money. But I talked to him about, look, we're going to negotiate. What is the market paying against your skill set? Because he was also self-deprecating that he would not showcase the skills that he had. He just wanted to just be a humble guy. But I was like, you deserve more, because when you talk to me about what you give that company, you actually have quantifiable value that you can share with them that shows that you deserve more. And so we did that. He got his first offer, he turned it down. His next offer that he got after having that conversation about his quantifiable value was mid to upper six figures. I mean, he was ecstatic, right? I was ecstatic. In fact, I have friends that I'd say don't go into a negotiation without even talking to me, because I want to help them with clarity of thought. I don't want them to be too bold to knock themselves out, but I want them to be confident enough to know that they're going for the value that they deserve. So if you talk about the research, there's an advantage and disadvantage around price. So wages, real wages, have been stagnant, right? So how do you know if you're getting more than what you want? You have to do some research. There's a lot of money out there today. And I believe there's a lot of government money that's out there. And so people are not going back to work. If people aren't going back to work, from my perspective, that's an advantage, because there's more jobs that are open. And so I'm going to take advantage of that. Any questions around price before I move into position?
Curtis, I read an article just the other day about negotiating for salary and for negotiating completely, as you talked about, compensation. And they were saying that you should always ask for more money. That, again, the way you laid it out is perfect. It's not their budget. It's what's the value you bring. And oftentimes they may say, oh no, this is the only price, this is it. And once they've made the decision that you're the person to hire, they don't want to have to start looking again. They don't want to settle for the second best. So you may just get it back where, okay, we were able to figure it out, or we'll give you a signing bonus, or you can often find compensation elsewhere. So great points. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ken. That's excellent points.
Curtis, I have a question about price.
Sure.
You mentioned those different .coms. How accurate do you see those being across the board? And then are there certain kind of sectors or industries where you see them being less accurate than others?
So I will tell you that I've not gone that much into the detail around the accuracy within sector or details other than the industry that I'm in. The other thing, and you bring up a good point that I want to tell everybody, that information is based on people who opted in. So it could be low because there are people that might be putting the information in because they feel that of how they feel. It could be high because it's people that want to brag about what they put in, and it could be skewed. So I would say leverage more than one source, but I really couldn't tell you which industry is more accurate than the other. But that's an interesting point to look into.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so how do customers see you? How do you see yourself? Your goal is to get in a position where employers are more likely to buy. So we talked about product and price. That's more about the things you do. Now you want to get help to get into the right position. And you want to get yourself in the eye level, buy level. So what do? You want to be seen, you want to be heard. There's a number of things you can do. You got to position yourself in the customer's mind relative to competing products using direct and indirect distribution channels. So direct channels is identifying who's going to be making the decision. It's going to be a lot of committee members, or it could be one person. But how do you get to that person? That's where you have to leverage your network. Put yourself out there with attending industry events. Coming to, I mean, the fact that you're here right now, you're putting yourself out there. And I would even venture to say, if you're asking questions, you're putting yourself out there further, because you're putting yourself in somebody's mind. And so when we talk about Zoe, for example, Zoe, are you paid to do this?
Yes. Yeah.
You are? So that's awesome. I will tell you that a lot of organizations have executive directors that are not paid, and those organizations don't last too long, right? But there are some areas where you volunteer because you get an opportunity to work. Zoe, you've now made yourself available. I mean, I guess you had to go through a hiring process, but you now have access to all these people where you're performing on a day-to-day basis. So that's your direct channel. And if you want to do something else, you have people that will support you. But if you are not, say, at the executive director level, I would suggest you volunteer. An indirect way is leveraging your sponsors and mentors. They will help you get in the position. In fact, my current position is based off of 3 companies that I've worked with my current boss, who I haven't had to interview with after, you know, developing the first relationship at Roman Haas in 2006 to 2009. So this is how you put yourself in that position. It takes time. I know you're saying, well, I need a job now, Curtis. Well, start looking at what position you're in and who can put you in a position that you need to be in. A gentleman that I worked with, very well known in the cybersecurity space down in DC at Amtrak. And he wanted to be more well known. So he wanted a bigger profile, so to speak. He wanted to have a position where people knew him as a guru. And I said, well, you don't put yourself out there. You don't share what you do. So I helped him create a board resume. I said, at your level, you need to be looking at being on boards and not just looking for jobs, but being on boards. And so I had him do a board resume. And the other thing I said was take every opportunity you can to talk so you can showcase your value. People in this inner circle know who you are. Get out there. And so he did that. And not only did he start working with boards, but he got a better job and is now known as a cybersecurity expert. So this was somebody who had value, knew that they had value to themselves, kept it to themselves, but wanted more, didn't know how to go out and get more. And I will tell you, it wasn't when I first offered this gentleman some help, he refused me because he didn't think he could help me. I mean, I could help him, but word of mouth travels. And so somebody he trusted had me work with him and his daughter. And he was like, you gotta talk to Curtis. He can help you. And he didn't regret it. You heard me talk about volunteering. That was one way that I got myself out there. As soon as I lost my job, I looked in the newspaper and saw that this organization, BDPA, Black Data Processing Associates, was having an event downtown. And I went and I asked them, I said, hey, how can I help this organization? I want to join and I want to help this organization. By the way, I meant to say this before I started. I need to know how to join Beacon because I'm a member, and then I want to also know how to be a sponsor. So talk to me soon after this. But volunteering allows you to put your skills on display, and it's for free. And so how I learned to work a budget in a department was how I ran a volunteer organization's budget, which helped me learn and get the confidence to do it. I also, when I was out of a job or potentially out of a job, not this first time I told you about, but when Roman Haas was purchased by Dow, I didn't want to move to Midland, Michigan. And so what they told me that's where my promotion was. But when I told my corporate advisory council, sort of an advisory board, about it, you know what they did? They offered me jobs, different CIOs from different companies, because they saw me work and I put that board together. So you get a chance to learn these skills with little risk. You get a sense of commitment to your values. I wanted to help inner city kids with the ability to gain access to IT and IT things and the industry. And say, not only do you build your network, you also get friends. So I'm traveling with these same folks. In fact, I just came back from a golf trip in Michigan with some friends that I met in my volunteer organization. Mentoring is great, but sponsorship is the goal. You want somebody that's going to open doors for you. I mentioned earlier that I don't have to interview as long as my current boss is someplace and he makes me an offer to go there, I don't have to interview. So that's what you want. And I'm going to speed up a little bit because I see the time. And now we're going to the last one, and that's promotion. It's the last step. You've put yourself in position. You've qualified your target customers. You've determined your value proposition. You've developed your brand. You got your value that you understand. You got the right relationships. And now you put all that together in a solid promotion. And you do that by having consumers understand who you are. Word of mouth is a great way. I mean, if people trust their networks, right? Ask for referrals. Ask people to be your mentor. Now, you don't typically ask somebody to be your sponsor. What you do is you develop a relationship, and that becomes a natural way of working together. So, but you can have the conversation once you have the relationship. Ask for reviews of your content. So I'm saying you should create some content. Let people know that you are prolific in your industry, that you know your business, and you have a great profile around it. And ask for support. Don't be afraid to ask for support, because I find that people want to help you. And so as a product, your brand is key to positive referrals for others to promote you. And this question, I asked this earlier, what do you say about yourself? And it's not just your words you say, it's the things that you produce. I see videos that Ken produces. I see videos that Ford produces. And so without me even engaging with them on a regular basis, I know that they're out there doing their thing because I see it. They produce content. And I'm suggesting that you do the same. This is the day and age that we're in. So this is how you get known. And you might not be as big as Gary Vaynerchuk, but you'll be known in your industry, okay? Advertise. You got your LinkedIn profile, job boards. And this is from an older presentation, Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group, but you got Beacon, you got all these other resources, you got to use them. And, you know, one of the things that I give as a giveaway is a promotion strategy that I used. So you can download a free copy of this promotion strategy with this link, cljassoc.com job search book. And I'll tell you quickly what that is. Some years ago, my best friend wanted to run a division of GE. So he approached GE. I remember he said he drove up, went to the side of his car, let go his breakfast, walked in with a document and said, I can run this division for $1 for a year. However, if I'm successful, here's what I want. I think his last bonus, the last time he and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, was about $15 million. Point is, he went in there bold. He didn't know what he was going to say to his wife, but he did it. And I was like, you know what? I need that proposal. So when I lost my job, that's what I would do. I would create proposals. It was after September 11th. I tried to get past HR departments and get that proposal in, but you know, it didn't really get me the job, but this is what I tried. So my boss, my current boss, asked me, what would it take for me to get you to this company? And is a 17-page proposal that you can have a copy of. It's scrubbed for some personal stuff, but this is what it would take to get me to come. Here's how I want to be organized. Here's how I plan. I'm a project manager, so I put a project plan at the end of it, right? Here's the first 90 days. But I just did something that was different. And so here's another testimonial from a young lady who was looking for more. She wanted to be promoted within, I believe, L'Oreal. And I worked with her on a resume and approached her taught her how to approach mentors and potential sponsors. And now the president of the company is a mentor sponsor. She's been promoted, and this is not with this company, it's the next company, because she's just been moving up. And it's just been a pleasure to watch this young lady grow. So when you put the 4 P's into action around promotion, believe it or not, helping others will help you. So don't just look for the help, be a help. There's a gentleman named Glenn Berman that I met in 2020, who was a member of the Philadelphia Area Great Career Group. And he was looking for a job. But all I saw him doing on LinkedIn was taking food to homeless people, going out during COVID, delivering food. He was doing all the things I thought a great human being would do. And I said, if I ever had a position, I hire project managers, but if I ever had a position or knew of a position, that's the guy that I want. And so I was so ecstatic when he found the job. He deserved it. He's a great person. And I think this is for everyone. When you help others, you help yourself. So your result can be very accretive for you. So let me quickly go to part 3, managing your job search like a project manager. I will tell you, I love this saying and I love this man. An idiot with a plan can beat a genius without one. Always have a plan for how you're going to do everything. I'm a project manager. It's natural for me. I get it. But I just believe when you're armed with a plan, nothing can stop you. And you talk about Warren Buffett, who just worked and compounded on his plan to success. So my approach, if you understand the 5 parts of project management: initiation, planning, execution, and control, and closing. When I lost my job, every night I made a list of 10 people I knew who to call, and I would ask for referrals. Then I would, on a weekly basis, look for a list of job fairs, career fairs, and any companies I wanted to visit. I also created that base proposal I told you about. To stay on track, I created a status report. Yes, red, yellow, green, a status report. And it was jointly developed not only with myself, but I actually have a personal steering team with one of the gentlemen I mentioned and some guys. We started off golfing. but we would always talk about work and career. So we created this group called the League of Executive African American Professionals. And we just help each other with support, accountability, learning, and inspiration. And they are my biggest fear when it comes to me not doing what I said I was going to do. And then, so I have a personal board to help me and to bring me new ideas. And then, you know, for my closing, I never stop job searching in one form or another. I do get discouraged. I'm telling you not to get discouraged, and reflect on success. So let me tell you what I mean by I do get discouraged. Everything did not work the way I planned it. And I am an A personality, and that's what I expect. If I wrote it down, I got to do it. Well, I tell you, right in 2019, I was spiraling because I had not made it to the VP position, and I knew that I deserved it. And I heard too many people say it around me in the company and outside the company. So I was looking for jobs and I was getting offers. And I had to take stock because mentally I was losing it. And so I had to think about, well, okay, yeah, I didn't do that, but I wrote a book and I helped all these people. I helped a lot of people in my company grow. I didn't get the title, but they gave me the compensation. There were so many positives that I looked at that I had to start reflecting on success and not giving up. I was looking for validation. And because that's what really a promotion is, somebody validating you by working through the company and giving you that title. And then I realized I don't need the validation. I got all these good things going for me. So when I talked about initiation planning, initiation is really the start, begin with the end in mind. So my job seeking goals in 2008, it was all about how to get more compensation, what company to work at, what location, all these different things. But as I got more and more into, right, as I got older, let me just say it that way, I was thinking more about making an impact and having a good brand, changing my brand. Most of project management is in IT. And I didn't want to be pigeonholed into IT because running mergers and acquisitions is bigger than IT. And if I can't do an enterprise governance organization, if I'm just IT. So I just focused on changing the brand, coming up with ways to come up with more streams of income, because it's something about when you get more income in different ways, it relaxes you to focus on what you want to do versus what you feel you have to do. And so I put a lot of time and effort into that so that I could focus on what I wanted to do. So the next thing I want to tell you is job search is a team sport, right? Everybody should be pulling for your success. I talked about mentors, peers, sponsors, groups like Beacon. Everybody should be pulling for your success. And so and so this is to my introvert friends, because the guy that I told you that is very successful is the biggest introvert that I know, next to my boss, who's the second biggest introvert I know, a lot of people that report to me. I'm surrounded by introverts who are very, very, very successful. So it's okay to have a conversation with people about what you're trying to do with job search. Don't use introversion as an excuse for not getting yourself out there, because it will hurt you more than help you. There are people that wrote books. I remember reading a young lady that was at the Pyramid Club. She has a book specific to introverts. I wish I had it right here with me that I can give it to you as a resource. I'll follow up and have Ken provide it to you. The other thing is, like I mentioned, consider a personal advisory board. Figure out how your relationships can all work together to help each other, right? So we're not just going out and playing golf or bowling. Let's figure out how we can help each other grow. Let's share. And let's be accountable to each other. Let's not be afraid to say, hey, you know, you really didn't do well on this because you didn't open your mind up to X, Y, and Z, and just be respectful of each other. But consider a personal advisory board, because the truth is, there's nobody that's self-made. You'll have people talk about being self-made, but everybody has somebody that's going to help them. All right, so let me conclude with some actions to take. So 80% of what employers look for is confidence. Everything I talked about today is building up from a product, price, position, and promotion. That's all about building your confidence. When I talked about the value proposition, that is building up your competence. Okay. I was in a situation where I was presenting and I did not appear confident. My buddy got up and he presented, he took over. And what I didn't even like was that he wasn't telling the truth, but he had the room. And so when I talked to my career coach, the career coach said, Curtis, he displayed confidence. There are times when people want your competence, but they need your confidence first. And so that was a big lesson for me. Don't hide. If you're looking for a job, let everybody know. Take advantage of everything that's around you. And so the hardest thing for me to do was to file for unemployment, but it helped. And then refereeing football games. I remember doing that so that I can get lunch money while I was bridging this gap. Take advantage of everything that's available to you to get to where you want to be. In fact, do something that's humbling, because it'll make you remember that feeling when that you don't ever want to have again. I talked about confidence and being strong in your field, having that daily routine, learning how to market yourself, and then helping others. And so I explained what I did. I took action to boost my confidence. I volunteered and accelerated my learnings. I learned how to market myself and remain a valuable and an employable commodity. Yes, I see myself as a commodity, because people pay me, that's a commodity. I created my own business, and it should say businesses now, because I am fearful of, if somebody else having the power, they can fire me, and where would I be? So that's why I created these businesses, and I help other people overcome their issues with confidence. So I wrote a book to expand my reach on helping others. The book is titled The Only Job Search Book You'll Ever Need. In 2020, it was voted as Best New Hiring Books by Book Authority. I have some great testimonials. You heard me mention Lynn Williams, who's had me speak at other groups. She was very kind with her words about the book. And then I had Dr. Laura Dowling be very kind to me with just sharing her testimonials around me speaking. And I'm hoping that you'll be just as kind. So I now have a favor I want to ask of you. Can I ask you to take 3 minutes? I'm saying 3 minutes, but you can do this faster. My primary communication or social media is LinkedIn. Can you go to LinkedIn right now? Do this right now. And then I want you to send me a note directly with the subject line, 4 P's of marketing. And I want you to tell me what resonated with you, because what resonates with you allows me to compile and understand to help others what's important. We talked about ageism before. When I did this in another talk, somebody talked about their biggest concern is ageism, which is why I put it up front. So what resonated with you? And then if you want to add, what could I add to help you? Remembering that I am doing this from my own personal experience. I still go on interviews. I have many stories of things that I've done that are, I would say, not normal, but prolific. To give you an example, there was a job in Atlanta, perfect job for me. And I didn't want the job, but I wanted the relationship. So I sent an email to the CEO of the recruiting firm, along with 2 other people. The CEO blew me off, pushed me down to a lower level person. It was okay. When I got to that person, I was visiting Atlanta to speak. That was the other thing. I knew I was coming to Atlanta and I wanted to have dinner or drinks. Well, the person couldn't meet with me because he was getting married that weekend. And so I went and bought a card. I signed it. I took a picture of it and I said, this is for you and your wife. I'm sorry we couldn't meet, but I was intending to give this to you when we were together. That got back to him. I got a second interview. And then the only issue we had was compensation. So I talked to the CEO, who ended up buying a copy of my book. He has, actually send him a copy of the book. He has a coaching practice. And I signed up for the 15-minute coaching practice because that was for free. We stayed on the call for 2 hours. And I told him what I was trying to achieve. He gave me a piece of advice. He said, the compensation that you make is a vice president. You have to force them to give you a vice presidency because people only see you as a director and you will never get a new job. And that's when I was pushing for the vice presidency out of his advice. And now we're friends. So be deliberate in what you want, but be genuine. You'll end up getting some friends as a result. And as Ken mentioned earlier, here's how you can find me. My book, Vision to Reality, Stop Working, Start Living, is coming out soon. And I also have a podcast coming out called Visionary Ventures. I've created this concept called the Visionaire, somebody who can do well in life as a result of taking their visions and turning them to reality. So now, what questions do you have? What did you learn? What would you like to share with me? How can I help you?
Does anybody, if you have a question, please feel free to speak up or a comment.
I have one. So Curtis, can you explain for our group, for people who are not familiar, what PMO is? You kept mentioning PMO and people may not know what that means.
You know, I'm almost embarrassed that you're asking me that question because I am a stickler for people who use acronyms. Oh my goodness. So a PMO is a project management office. So basically it is the central organization that should be responsible for all the projects in the organization. They are typically pigeonholed inside of IT, and IT is typically pigeonholed up under a CFO. If that happens, the organization may or may not value the project management office the way that an enterprise project management office would deliver value. And in a recent acquisition, gentleman said, "You're a vice president of PMO?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "They just really value project management here." I said, "Yeah, because we deliver value. We deliver value to the organization." Their organization had a consulting firm with only 2 people buried under the CFO, under the IT person. So it's a project management office.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Questions?
Curtis, a thing that I think comes up with some of our members from time to time, so I'll just ask this. Is there a way that members who may have been out of work for an extended period of time can position themselves? Because there's sometimes a stigma that, oh, this person's been out of work for a long period of time. You know, eventually it kind of feels like it's this hole you can't dig out of. Do you have any tips for that, for those people?
Yeah, I guess the first tip is you got to change your mindset. And here's what I mean. The first thing is, I told you that many decisions are made by irrational people. And in this job market, and this day and age, if somebody is going to ding you for not being at work and give you that stigma, then that's not a good person, right? And you can't help that. But if you're out of work, you have an opportunity to create. I have this thing, I didn't create it, I read it, and now I believe it. And it's called create, don't consume. If I find myself watching too much TV and I'm not making something, learning something, or creating something, then I feel like I'm just dying. And so use the time, because look, time is valuable commodity. Use it to focus on what you're good at, what you want to be good at. And then also finding the right people, because in this day and age, if somebody's stigmatizing you, you do not want to be there, or at least working with that person.
Great points. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else? Well, Curtis, one of the things I really loved about the presentation is that I find a lot of times with my clients, they almost forget about what they were, and now I'm a job seeker. And they don't often recognize that they're in sales now, selling themselves. But I love the way with project management, with marketing, you're taking what people do for a living and applying it to the job search, which often it's just not. And I just think you made really great connections there for everybody. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Ken. And you heard me say, I don't comment a lot, but I watch a lot on LinkedIn. And I'm purposely my profile is not as big. Folks, say something, make some connections, follow up, do what you say, have a high say-do ratio. It's not going to come exactly when you want. I've had some really, really bad times, like just, but I did not allow myself to self-deprecate too long, because that's a damaging thing. Your mind can hurt your body.
Yeah, well, and you just brought up another great point that I took away from this is that when you're going to an interview or even a networking conversation, you're on equal level with that person. Don't think of yourself below the line and them above the line, because you're not going to deliver your best self. And I think that's something that comes through your confidence very clearly. And if you present yourself in an interviewing situation that way, I think you will have much more impact.
Yeah, the fortunate thing for us is we don't have tails. So imagine a networking group of dogs, and the ones that cower to the alpha, right? It's visible. And we don't realize that that's what we're doing when we walk in. We're walking, our tails are cowered down, and we're looking around, and our hind parts are low. We don't want to do that. We want to walk in, we want to wag just like everybody else. Hi, my name is Curtis Jenkins. I don't want to say what dogs do to greet each other, because that's not what we want to do.
We don't want that either. All right, fair enough. But that's a very good analogy, though. We want to respect and be professional, but we don't want to put people on a pedestal. We want to be right there with them. So exactly. That's a great point.
Beacon is the premier executive networking organization serving the Mid-Atlantic region. To learn more, go to beaconforlife.org.